Yes. So the idea of data science is how do you take decisions, data-driven decisions from all your data. So the data can be coming from CSV file. It can be stored in MySQL. Okay, it can be logs. It can be raw text files. It can be DBMS systems like MySQL, NoSQL. It can be on Hadoop. It can be on S3. Okay, data can be sitting anywhere. Using all this data, how do you help management to take good decision? That is the essence of data science or business intelligence. And for doing that, there are various steps that needs to be followed. So the first stage is to prepare your data in a consumable format down the pipeline. For example, your data can be sitting in say a NoSQL database, and you need to clean it, and you need to format it in a proper format, okay, common to all other databases. So if it is you are using multiple databases, the first step is to prepare the data by agreeing on a common format. Okay, like for example, there can be a CSV file, there can be a MySQL database. So how do you prepare the data and clean it? And by cleaning, you eliminate the unnecessary rows, maybe rows that contains nan, okay, not a number, or those kind of unnecessary columns and rows. So that is the data preparation stage. And then we do a basic reporting or analytics. This is the process of EDA. It is an exploratory phase where you see whether the data is in a proper format. Okay, that is not containing any outliers. So, all the values are as expected. And for that, maybe you can plot various sort of graphs and see whether the data is in proper format. So you do all these things at this stage. So it is just a descriptive analytics. So descriptive means you are just describing the data. You are not using the data to infer something, but you are using to maybe summarize the data, like finding out the mean or variance, what is the mean, median, mode, and whether there are any outliers. So those kind of basic things are done at this stage. Then this is where the data science, the algorithms part comes in. Okay, so here is where whatever is data science as taught in universities comes into picture. But this data science is just one part of this entire spectrum. Okay, but the other things are typically you gain the knowledge only by doing the actual practice when you are part of a team or when you are in a company. Okay, so that is where practical knowledge would help. Like maybe you can work on a hands-on project, like take some Kaggle project, for example, and you can try to get the knowledge from the data sources. Okay, and once you have a knowledge, how do you use that knowledge to take decisions? Okay, so for example, I worked in Baby Oil. Now it is called Fastcry on retail analytics. So what we have to do is we need to predict the sales for the next month given the historical data. So given all the previous years data, previous months data, we need to compute what would be the sales happening for the current month or the next month. And so this data driven decision is typically used by the management. For example, if the sales is not happening, can I do some promotion, or can I do some price cutting, or can I combine as an offer? So these are all the decisions that the at a management or the product guide takes, right? And as a typical engineer, okay, they lie somewhere here, right? A junior engineer lie at somewhere here. Their job is to collect the data from various sources and prepare in a consumable format and maybe do some basic analysis. And typically we come in between the management and the junior engineers, where we apply our knowledge of maybe EDA and data science and help to get knowledge. We may tell, okay, the knowledge I got is like maybe milk and bread are sold together, or milk and cheese are sold together. These are all knowledge. And data driven decision is maybe the management decides, okay, I will place milk and cheese together, or I will do a joint promotion on both of these items. Okay, so yeah, why I want to go into so much detail about what may be obvious is data science is just one part of the overall picture. And before delving deep into the algorithms like maybe neural networks or some kind of random forest decision tree, okay, we need to understand like where the data science fits in. And preparing the data itself is going to be a huge process. So typically around 70% of the time will be spent in the bottom three on getting the data from the data sources and doing some EDA, and then only where algorithms come into picture. And one common thing that is happening, uh, just 1 second, somebody else is pinging about the Zoom link. Yeah, sorry. So one problem that is happening is when you're taught, when students or the software engineers learn about data science, the most of the focus is on the core algorithms part, like what is meant by decision tree. They learn about the entropy, information grain, all those things, but without knowing how it fits in the overall picture. So that's where, okay, what we are doing is to go from the bottom up and see like, okay, what is happening, how what you are learning will be applied, how is going to be useful in the industry. Okay, so yeah, any questions, please do let me in the chat window, or you can even unmute and you can talk to me. Okay, so the first step is, okay, you need to be familiar with how to collect the data from various sources and put it in a common format. For that, the tools that are needed is how to handle CSV files, maybe using Pandas, or you can also use some tools like Tableau. Okay, so that's where we build a data warehouse. So a data warehouse is nothing but or you collect the information from disparate sources and build a unified data store, and this data warehouse will be, you will be able to query it for various facts and various dimensions. So what is meant by fact? Okay, so the there are there are two things called measures and dimensions. So for example, if the sales is happening, the amount of sales that happened in a particular month, okay, is a measure, because you are able to measure it, right? So it is a numeric quantity that is summable. You can summarize it, compute various stats on it. So those are called measures. Whereas the amount of sales that happened on a particular day, or across a particular geography, on a particular store, or on a product, okay, so on a product category like shirts. Okay, so those are called dimensions. So imagine, for the sake of simplicity, that we have three dimensions. So one dimension is the time dimension, another is the store, okay, and the third dimension is the product category. So in this three-dimensional cube, okay, I can do various slicing and dicing. So I can see like what is the amount of sales that happened in the month of Jan, okay, and on in a particular geography, okay, all the stores in that particular geography in a particular product category, say t-shirts. Okay, so I can do various slicing and dicing operations. So this things come under business intelligence, and or a data warehousing, or it is called OLAP, online analytical processing. Okay, the terminology OLAP, okay, is as opposed to OLTP, online transaction processing, is in OLAP we give more importance to the analytics like aggregation, okay, summing across days, or you compute some statistics like mean, those kind of analytical processing. Whereas transaction processing is typically like a POS data. Okay, so you at the store, okay, whenever a sale is happening, in the point of sale, data will capture the information about the sale that has happened, like what is the product that got sold, what is the MRP, okay, and maybe about some customer details if they have some loyalty card, some customer detail is also captured. So that is happening at a transaction level, at a point by point. Whereas in OLAP, okay, it is happening at a summary level. You take the entire database and you compute a lot of aggregate statistics, okay, do some slicing and dicing. Okay, and today what we will be covering is, okay, we will be covering what are the
Arvind,
common
question here.
algorithms in data science. Yes, yes, Ashish.
So, a lot of places, this data, sales data, loyalty data, these are in databases, right? SQL or NoSQL databases.
Right.
So, to get this, we should be good in SQL also, right? To
Yes,
write
yes,
queries, to join queries, and so on and so forth, right?
yes.
Basically,
Mm.
you well, calculate summary data using by accessing data from database using queries, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but if you take priority wise, okay, I would suggest to learn Pandas, because Pandas is applicable across the spectrum, like right from preparing the data or cleaning the data, and maybe you can use Pandas itself to do some aggregate. Okay, you can directly query the database using SQL, and in SQL itself, you can do some summary statistics, or I can just get the raw data into CSV and then use Pandas to compute the summary. So even if you are not familiar with SQL, okay, I can have a workaround and use Pandas to do the same thing. Okay. But SQL is, in fact, a very good skill to have once you have mastered the basic of Python and Pandas. And
Okay, thanks.
yes, and then the actual data science process happens, and in data science, it's where you build a model, so that a model is just a compact representation of the data. So if I know like what is the underlying model, okay, then it becomes easy for me to understand it for the or for even predicting for the future. Okay, so that's how I think in terms of model. It's a compact representation of data. A model was there even before computers came in, right? Like scientists used to model the orbits, and that's how we got Kepler's law of motion. Okay, so instead of having astronomical data, okay, you represent that model compactly as an equation like F equal to ME, and using that itself, I can derive the data for so many other unknown data points. Okay, I can predict the motion of the orbits, where it is going to be in the future. Okay, so data science comes there. Okay, and before even data science comes, once the data is prepared, okay, you do EDA using various tools like Tableau, okay, basically to summarize the data and see whether there are any outliers. You can maybe eliminate the outliers. You can do correlation analysis and see, okay, these two columns are similar. Maybe I can drop one of the columns. I don't need both of them together. That way I reduce the dimensions of the data to make it more simplified. Okay, so these are the things that are done in the descriptive analytics. Okay, and yeah. Next, so to motivate this problem, okay, I just shared some sales data. Okay, so we have the sales for all these months. Okay, so can you predict the sales for July? Okay.
Average.
Hmm? Yeah, just see. Jan is 3100, Feb is 2800. So can you predict like what will be the sales for July?
3100 will like most probably.
Right, right. It is just the number of days into 100, right? So the reason why I gave this simplified example is, so in many cases, we don't even need to build a complex model, right? It is just going to be a very basic formula. It won't be a very complex machine learning model. Even a simple formula is enough to predict things. But in real world, mostly we may not have a very simplified formula. There may be more complexities involved. It just doesn't depend only on the number of days. There are many more columns that comes into picture. So here I have just the month, and the sales is happening to be dependent on just the month. Okay, but there is an unknown column. Okay, there is some column that has to be inferred. It is hidden. It is not directly present. Okay, that is the number of days, right? So as a data scientist, okay, our job is to infer like what are the unknown things. If I add it, okay, then my prediction is simplified. So this is the column that needs to be predicted, right? So let me color it. Okay, so this is something that is needs to be predicted. Okay, and for predicting that, there are columns or features. So each of this thing, okay, is called column or features. In this simple model, number of days is the only feature, but it can be more complex. Maybe the number of holidays is also equally important, or maybe the geographical location of the data of the store may be important. So the more and more the number of columns is present, okay, maybe it becomes a more accurate model that can forecast things. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover about the modeling. So the moment you hear about data modeling, okay, most of the students who have done formal courses immediately jump into some machine learning algorithms. But modeling can be as simple as even using a formula to predict, okay, what is going to be the target column. So in this example, what we are going to do is, we have the historical data. So the historical data is maybe till June. So these are the historical data, and this is also called as training data. And using that historical data, I will build a model, and I will use that to predict for my future. So from July to December, I can use that model to predict. Okay, and for doing that, what are the possible algorithms that we can use? That is what we are going to see in this session. And for this session, the motivating example is, imagine you are running your own e-commerce store. Okay, maybe like FirstCry or Babyoi. Okay, or you are specialized in some specific product, and you are running that store, and you have to come up with questions like, okay, how will I use data science? So what are the questions that data science can help me to answer? So that is what you need to come up with. Okay, and there then we can tell to the management that data science can help you to make decisions like promotions or any other thing that can help you to improve the sales. So ultimately, there has to be some business objective associated with whatever you do. Then only it will become useful, and you can get the buy-in from the management. Otherwise, people would just ignore the data science team. Okay, so whatever thing you do has to be tied with the business objective. Okay, like improving the sales, or reducing the inventory space. So there are a lot of business objective, and you have to see how uh, your data science process can help in achieving that business objective. Okay, and we have seen like how data science, I mean, how we can build model. And one of the category of machine learning is supervised learning, right? So we have supervised versus unsupervised learning. In supervised learning, we are given a historical data, like for the last 6 months sales data is in one example. And using that historical data or training data, we need to predict the future. As opposed to unsupervised learning is just, we don't have any historical data. Okay, we are just doing some basic analysis, like maybe clustering the data into a few categories. So there is no concept of any previous data training data. This is used in example where you have some customers, you have like 1,000 customers, and you need to divide them into 10 groups and do some marketing analysis. You need to do some marketing. So there you use clustering, okay, which is an unsupervised example of unsupervised learning. Okay, and when you come to unsupervised supervised learning, okay, there are two categories. One is classification, where you use classification to identify a category, like cat or dog. Okay, that is an example. Or you need to identify a fraud. Okay, so those are all example of classification. And regression is when you are trying to predict the numerical value, then it is called regression. So our current example of sales data is a regression problem. You are finding out what is the exact number. But if you are using the same thing to classify, for example, you can have like 5 different category of customer, and depending on their browsing pattern, you can put them into one of the category. Okay, maybe in which funnel, which part of the funnel they are in, like they are in a new lead, or they are ready to buy. So those kind of things comes under classification. Okay, in unsupervised learning, we discussed about clustering. So uh, just divided the customer into few categories, right? Like you want to do some marketing, and you want to send specific campaign. So instead of just sending to same campaign to all the 1,000 people, you divide into 10 segments, and for each of the segment you target specifically with the marketing campaign. Another example is association, where you identify the patterns, like if milk is bought, then cheese is also bought. So those kind of things comes under association. The third category is dimensionality reduction, where we figure out like 2 3 columns are not necessary. You can reduce the number of columns. In our example, maybe date of birth and age is given, and one of them is unnecessary, because you can derive it from the other. So if I can reduce the number of columns, I can build a much better model. So that's where we use dimensionality reduction. And all these three are examples of unsupervised learning, because we don't give any previous examples or historical or training examples. We just ask the machine, the computer itself, to come up with a strategy, can do some basic partitioning, or the identification of the rules, or doing grouping in the form of dimensionality reduction. Okay. So let us see how this applies to our Excel example. So always remember that there may, like behind every machine learning problem, like what will be the inputs and outputs. Try to visualize them. Okay. So if I have customers, okay, like all these people, then I can group them. Okay, so if I group them by the rows, okay, then based on their features, right? Like maybe I take example of maybe I take their age into account, and I group them So that is an example of clustering. Okay, so I can maybe market to them separately, and if I group the columns together, then that is an example of dimensionality reduction. So I have a column age and another column of date of birth. So that is an example of dimensionality reduction. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover about the basics.
Arvind,
Yes.
yeah, so regarding this dimensionality reduction, as you said that, so we just remove the column or we combine the two columns into one?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know.
Yes, good question. So there are both of the things are possible. Okay, so you can even combine the columns together. Okay, for example, uh, a doctor may be interested in combining the height and weight into BMI.
BMI.
Right, so that is one thing. Okay, here I can maybe remove the date of birth column altogether. I can read in only age. If I am interested in age, for example, for insurance, I want to calculate the insurance premium. Okay, then I can ignore one of the columns. Okay, but you can also combine. Okay, and this combination can be done either as a named one like a BMI, or it can be even hidden. Okay, you don't even know that this column is a combination of alpha times height and beta times weight. Okay, so the machine will automatically identify. Okay, maybe individually it doesn't matter what is the height and weight, but what matters is 0.7 height plus 0.2 weight is what is the most important thing, and that need not have a name like BMI. Okay, the machine will figure out. Okay, I will keep that. I will call it as C1. Okay, and I will just remove height and weight and just use C1. I will remove the individual A, B columns, and internally I will make it as C1. So in fact, there is a algorithm called PCA, okay, which exactly does that. Okay, it is called principal component analysis. Okay. So actually, we will reconnect. The Zoom link might expire. Okay, but I will immediately reconnect. Okay. Any questions?
Arvind, there is also something called RPCA, right? Robust PCA.
Yeah.
What's the shortcuts of PCA?
Yeah, robust PCA, I haven't worked much on it. Okay, but there are some lot of categories of PCA like kernel PCA. There are a lot of variants of it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions? So going forward, what I will be doing is I will we have seen about supervised and unsupervised. I will give an example of an unsupervised learning, and then we will see step by step like what will be happening in the supervised learning example. Okay. So this is an example of an supervised learning. Okay, so we are as usual. Some of the steps are going to be common. Okay, like for example, doing exploratory data analysis, or cleaning or pre-processing, removing redundant features. So this is where like I remove one of the columns like date of birth. Okay, cleaning is maybe I want to remove the outliers. So for example, I want to compute the average salary of a city. Okay, then maybe I will remove the outliers like Bill Gates maybe coming to a city. Okay, so they will affect the average salary. So I can remove all those things to get a more accurate representation. And then I do a pre-processing. So till this pre-processing step, okay, it is going to be common for both supervised and unsupervised learning. And in supervised learning, okay, what I will do, I will split the data into two parts. So one is the training data, another is the test data. So if I use the entire historical data for training, I won't be able to figure out whether my model is correct or not. So what I will do, I will use 80% of the data or 75%, okay, for training the data set, and then I will build a model. So for building the model, okay, I have to select the correct features. So for example, BMA is a feature, good feature, but it may not be actually present directly in in the CSV file in your training data, but I will figure out like what are the important features. Okay, maybe your CSV file has 100 columns. Sales data may have 100 columns, so many of them may not be necessary. So I can drop many of them. I can combine some of them. Okay, or maybe further I can combine using some technique like PCA, which can give a more compact representation. And using that limited set of features, I will build a trained model, and that's that it is happening. And once it is trained, I use it to on the unseen data set and see how well my model performs. And I will try multiple algorithms and check what is the accuracy that is coming in each and every algorithm, and I will pick up the one that performs the best. So this is the high level overview. Okay, so I will just in practice, we typically try on many of the algorithms like linear regression, logistic regression, decision tree, naive-Bayes classifier, then KNN, maybe even neural networks. Okay, so by neural networks, it's fun basic neural networks that can be done in scikit-learn. So for all of these things, I would suggest scikit-learn is a very good library, similar to how pandas is useful for doing EDA and cleaning and data munging. So scikit-learn is a very good library for building the basic model. So I will use that to build the model, and I do some cross validation. So cross validation is the process of figuring out like which model has worked best, and then even within the model that works best, I can do some hyperparametric tuning.